My name's Toru Honda. I was born in the year of the dog. My mom recently passed away, and since then I've been invited to live with the Soma family.
Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama. Welcome to our channel, Paws On Animation, and another Paws On Manga.
And today we are covering the romance or shoujo manga, Fruits Baskets, the original.
Yes, and this manga is something that I personally have been wanting to read for so long. Finally got all the volumes from the library, and I was not disappointed.
Yes.
And it centers on Toru Honda, who's an orphan girl who, after meeting Yuki, Kyo, and Shigure Soma, learns that they are the 13 members of the Chinese zodiac.
Yes.
And it is hilarious and fun and endearing and heartwarming.
Yes, it's a mixture. It's a rom-com, but with more drama mixed in.
Absolutely. But
before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell on future podcasts and pause videos.
Yes, and thank you so much for joining us today, subscribing, sharing our videos, commenting, so much more. As always, we appreciate everything that you do. Now, this series is pretty interesting because a teen girl named Toru Honda ends up living in a house with three guys who turn out to be cursed with the zodiac, where if they embrace the opposite gender, they turn into animals.
Yes.
And why I became interested in reading this is because a friend of ours, Justin Eddins, on Twitter, was post a lot about it and talk about it. And one day I said, I really want to read this manga and see, is it good?
Right.
So, went to the local public library, got the first few volumes, because I'm one of those type of people who I like to have all the volumes, as many as possible, so if I love the book, I can keep reading it uninterrupted. And started reading the first one and fell absolutely in love with the story, the characters, and the craziness.
Yes. And it got two anime series adaptations, and then a movie is coming out that acts as a prequel. You have the original one, which came out in, I believe, 2001, I think, or at least early 2000s, if that's not the precise date. And then
Yes, you're right, 2001.
Oh, okay. And then they did a remake in the 2010s, and both series are completely different from each other.
2019 to 2021.
Thank you. And then with the original one, it pretty much follows the manga in being the shoujo, mystery, slice of life, a little bit of comedy. The reboot seems to flip it on its head, and it focuses a lot on the zodiac element and the curse, and they make it more of like a touching drama, or it's a tragedy story instead. So you kind of have to pick which version you want to go with, but you probably want to stick with the original.
Now, the anime TV series actually had 63 episodes. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But I can understand why, because, again, the omnibuses have 12 volumes, and the book series itself, I think, originally had 23 volumes. So there was a lot of content to cover. And the name of the manga itself comes from a popular game played in Japanese elementary schools, and they actually mention it in the manga as well.
Yes.
The artwork, when you look at it, it's pretty standard for the time period in the 90s.
Right.
Where Rascal and I were talking about how the characters are drawn in the anime and in the manga.
Yeah. A lot of them seem to have the same similar style of being really tall, really thin, giant eyes, pointed features, and different lengths of hair. And then it looks like as it went forward, people's styles started to change, and then it became almost like the West, where everyone's style is so drastically different you can't confuse it for something else unless they purposely copy someone else.
So this particular manga series story is a combination of a romantic comedy, slice of life, sorry guys, and supernatural. And what makes it interesting for me is when it started off, it merely seemed to be slice of life, and then they suddenly sneaked in supernatural, and then later on they suddenly sneaked in some romance that you could tell that immediately was taking place between some of the characters. Now, all of this happened within the first volume.
Yeah, there's a lot
they
to
didn't
take
waste any
in.
time getting the story started and going. And parts of the story are kind of bittersweet because Toru has become an orphan. After her mom died, her dad died first from an illness, and then later on, the mom's hit by a car.
Yes.
And then she passes away. You don't find out the true story behind everything until much later in the manga volumes.
Right.
Like from numbers 10, 11, and 12.
Mm-hmm.
But throughout the manga, they keep giving you bits and pieces that make the story more interesting to read and keep you wanting to know more.
Right.
Now that's Toru, who's going to be considered the normal portion of this manga. Then we get to the family that comprise the entire Zodiac.
Yeah.
It's the Soma family, and 13 members of the family are possessed by the animals of the Chinese Zodiac.
All right, there we go.
And as we mentioned, are cursed into their forms when they hug people of the opposite gender,
Right.
which really gets funny at times.
Right. I guess the only one they don't have is the dragon, because I don't know how you would fit that in there. It'd probably be chaos. So for here, like you said, it stays pretty much slice of life, romance, supernatural comedy. It mixes in all together, and then I guess it really doesn't become more of the drama or tragedy part until it gets closer to the end. And the tone does shift, and it becomes about how does she break the curse so they can live lives, because they establish, they can't have relationships and live their lives or really much of anything that involves contact, because the minute if it's the males and they touch a girl, then they turn into the animals, and it's real easy to happen. So Toru wants to break the curse so they can live their lives, but it's never shown how she can break it, and when things happen in the end, it kind of doesn't even explain how does it break, when does it break, when does it knock off eventually, because there are points when they stop turning into them so much. But I think that's like the only bit of plot hole in the entire story, that you don't know how it breaks. It's just done and you move on, and they keep asking how, explain, and they can't. It's just gone. So it's like, okay, I guess we can't answer that.
Now, have to say there are some amazing plot twists in here, and I say amazing because back when it was written in 1998 to 2006, these types of things that were plot twists in this manga didn't happen.
Right.
They were like manga shattering,
Right.
genre shattering, earth shattering,
Right.
and probably unbelievable to the people who were reading it then. Reading it now, yes, I was still surprised. I didn't see the plot twist coming, but we see a lot of these things happen now regularly, not only in Japanese manga, but also in a lot of Western anime and shows. So it's not as surprising anymore, but still, within the confines of this particular manga, the plot twists are excellent.
Yeah.
And they've got a lot of characters that appear in here. As they mentioned, 13 Soma family members who are the signs of the Zodiac. You got Toru, and you've got some extra characters that go to their high school, and some extra characters that associate with the Soma family members. And as we mentioned, you've got backstory that comes up every now and then that tells about her mom and her dad. And then she also has 3 friends. So there's a lot of people,
Yes.
a lot of characters that are within this story. But
Yes.
somehow the writer really manages to make it stay interesting. Takaya makes it where nobody is left out. There's not too much of one character and not enough of another. And you don't find yourself going, this character is so uninteresting, why are they here? With all these characters, somehow the mangaka managed to make it interesting from the beginning to the end.
It's like with MHA balancing all of the characters and making sure everyone has some type of spotlight or purpose or arc or something going on there, where it feel like they're just kind of there to be extras or something. And as I said, when it gets closer to the end, it really starts becoming really dramatic. There's some tragic parts when you get a lot of the backstory revealing things. It does make it serious, and the good news is that there really is a happy ending in an unexpected way.
Right.
And I think that's what the remake tried to adapt. They tried to take the last chapters of the manga, and then they tried to make that part of the story in its entirety, because when you watch the original, you can tell immediately it's got a mixture of vibe. They're making like a shoujo and it's fun. But then you get to the remake, which we end up seeing first, and they make it like kind of quiet, it's subtle, there's not really a lot of humor, everyone's mysterious, it's eerie, and it looks like they're focused a lot on the tragedy of the Zodiac, because there's a heavy notion of that in the intro where they show them locked up in chains and things. It's like, this is entirely different. I think they kind of left out the shoujo part or the comedy part. They just made it all serious. So, and I think that doesn't work well because you like it's a blend of everything, so it feels balanced. If you have it be like a soap opera, it feels like it's too much. It's like it's trying to be way too dramatic or way too dark, because that really wasn't working with you when you watched. You were like, this is pretty dark, and this wasn't dark when you read it. It didn't get like that till near the end.
So I'm going to attempt to go and find the original series on Crunchyroll, hopefully, or on YouTube, and watch the original series versus the new one that they made.
Right.
And hopefully it will be closer to the manga itself. Now, if you're the type of person who likes stories that include a lot of emotional things the characters are working through, a lot of mystery, romance, and just so many different things that really make life in the real world, then you'll love this. Sylvian, I think you'll absolutely love reading this manga series if you haven't already. This has your name written all over it.
Right.
I think you'll identify with Toru so much, and you'll absolutely love her as a character, and she'll become one of your new favorites. That's what I really think. What do you think? Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right, because this would be the type of series she would enjoy, type of character she would like, and seeing how the story unfolds and having the supernatural element.
So quickly we'll go through we talked about Toru and her family, and we'll talk about quickly mentioning the 13 members of the Zodiac characters. And as you're going through the video, you'll see the book covers, and one appears on each cover plus Toru. And if you haven't read the manga, then I'll have the names on here. You'll see them, so you'll know whom is whom. You've got Akira Soma, who's the head of the Soma family. They call Akito a lowercase g god.
Yeah.
And the others pretty much do whatever Akito tells them to do.
Right.
He's in charge of the Zodiacs.
Right.
Then you have Yuki Soma, and he is the rat. And he's one of the characters that Toru really becomes close friends with.
Right.
And you can tell there's something possibly going to happen between them.
And more drama.
You've got Kyo Soma, excuse me, and he is the cat. And he's an animal that's not actually in the Chinese zodiac. But legend says he would have been if he hadn't been tricked by the rat into missing the induction feast. So, as you can probably tell, he and Yuki don't get along.
At all, and there's like a whole thing in there where they like tear up houses fighting each other.
Yes. You got Shiguri Soma, who is the dog, and he's the owner of the house where Toru, Yuki, and Kyo live. And he's a rider, and he's a slight purr. You learn by the life that he's living and what they have, that they're very wealthy. And you wonder how they have all these things based on his writing, because you never hardly ever see him writing in this manga.
Yeah, they said, what are you writing?
He's too busy watching the girls, going to the schools, making people feel uncomfortable. And he's not a perv in a way like Mineta, where you're like, oh my gosh, they shouldn't have him here. But he's a perv in the way that he jokes a lot, says things a lot to purposely make people uncomfortable. But he actually is pretty level-headed.
Yeah.
Then you have Kagura Soma. He's the boar. I'm sorry, she's the boar. And she's kind of girlish and very strong. And you have Momoji Soma, who you're going to love because he reminds you of Honey Senpai.
Yes, very much.
And he's the rabbit. And his father is one of the richest members of the Soma family. He is a halfer, as they say, in Oran. His mom is German and his dad is Japanese.
Right.
So I had to think about it.
Right.
He has a sister, and you'll find more about their backstory when you read it. Momoji likes to dress as a girl.
Right.
But he has a crush on another family member.
Yeah.
And you'll find more about that when you read it as well.
Right.
You have Dr. Hattori Soma, and he is the dragon.
There you go.
The only one that didn't have a dragon.
Yeah.
But he takes the form of a seahorse.
It's like,
as you said.
it's the dragon of the sea. And it's like, all right, I guess so.
And he's the private doctor, and you'll find out his role in this book is pretty sinister looking at first. And then you find out what he does really, he hasn't been wanting to do. Akito has been forcing him. And fortunately, that stops. Then you have Hatsuharu Soma, and he's usually called Haru, and he's the ox, and he's depicted as having a yin and yang personality. He's the older brother figure to Yuki and Kyo, and Momoji as well. And I don't want to tell you too much about him because it really will spoil your learning about him and the personality he truly has.
Right.
You have Ayame Soma, and he's the snake, and he's Yuki's older brother. His story is also really interesting. He's a fun character. He reminds you of...
well, a lot of characters, actually.
Well, he's really pretty, long hair.
That's a lot of anime characters, so...
But he's really fun, and he's learning how to be more of a brother to Yuki. You have Kisa Soma, and Kisa's the tiger, and she's depicted as cute and shy and withdrawn. And she really, really loves that Toru plays attention to her, and she Toru's like a big sister. You have Hiro, who's the ram or the sheep, depending on which one you prefer for the Chinese zodiac, and is in love with Kisa. You have Ritsu Soma, he's the monkey, and he's depicted as beautiful but unstable.
Okay.
And has low self-esteem. He apologizes for everything, and you'll come to understand more about his character further on in the manga, like from volume 6 further in.
Okay.
You have the Isuzu, or Suzu Soma, and Isuzu is the horse, and she's called Ren because she has an alternate ending for the kanji. She's tall and has dark hair and has a really dark backstory.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And you have Kureno Soma, and he is the former rooster. And when we say former, you have to find out his backstory. We don't want to ruin it because it'll ruin the story for you.
Right.
You have some other family members, Kazuma Soma, Akira, Ren Soma. There's a lot of them. And these are parents and others who aren't members of the Zodiac or don't have the curse, but they're all interconnected.
Right.
This is a really great manga to read if you like long serials, if you like incredibly detailed backstories, if you like just the story to go on and you hope it never ends, then Fruits Basket is for you. It's just the manga for you. And there are no colored pictures except for the covers themselves.
And some illustrations at the beginning of the manga.
Right. And as long as you adjust yourself to the 90s drawings, then you're fine. It's just a great story. As Rascal said, it does have an unexpected happy ending. We didn't think it would, but it does. I absolutely love this manga. I hope to own it one day. It's just that great. It makes a powerful impression because you've got these 13 characters and each one is totally different. Each one has their own story and each one makes an impression on you as you're reading it. And Toru is just this type of character that's like Deku, or the characters that are optimistic no matter what happens to them, don't want to disappoint others. She doesn't want to be a burden on anyone. She wants to be self-sufficient, and she still wants to make her mom proud even though she's gone. So you can't help but love Toru.
Right. And definitely recommend it for, if you read things like One Piece and things that can just keep going and keep going, you don't get tired of the story, you're right, you absolutely would love this. And also for people who are really missing a lot of shoujo and romance stories, yes, this is older, but for ones who are saying there's not many left or they don't make them the same way as they did with Oron and others, this would be something, in case you haven't heard of it or seen it, you might want to take a look so you can feel you can get back to that style that you enjoy of shoujo.
Absolutely. So, if you've read the Fruits Basket manga, let us know in the comments below. Have you read the entire thing? Did you read it when it originally came out? Did you read it later like we did? Let us know your thoughts. And if you haven't, and you've seen the anime, you really need to read this manga. It's like watching an anime. It's so animated.
Right.
And so engaging. And there are secrets that are told in this manga that were not told in the first series.
Right.
So, if you've seen the first series and not the second, read the manga, get the whole story.
Right.
And
if you haven't already, subscribe for updates. We give you this for anime series, anime shows, and all things animation.
Yes, and thank you so much for joining us today, subscribing, sharing our videos, commenting, and so much more. We appreciate you so much. And as always, you are special.
Thank you so much for watching Rascal Entertainment.
And a Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.
And reporters sitting, flashing lights, trying to walk around, man. Who the hell are you? What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. Met her in my dreams. She was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket, giving